Hi everyone, welcome to Betsy's Paper Craft Room. I am Betsy and today we are going to do the pre-cutting for the Wander card kit. So these are the tools you will need to do for pre-cutting. You will need to have your die cutting machine and plates. I'm going to put those aside now because they're big. Your paper trimmer, of course, and I use folders to sort my papers into. I have a little bookend right here and they just sit right up and they're numbered so I know what goes where. And then of course the main thing that you need is the Wander card making paper kit. Okay, so for today we can put aside the cards and envelopes and the glitter gems. We will be needing the die cuts out of the stamp set, but we won't need them right away. First off, what we need is all of the papers. And while I'm cutting, I like to just use my solid surface, so I'm going to put my mat aside as well. I forgot to say we also need some washi tape, and of course we always need directions. My washi tape is just some old tape that I don't use very much. It's very cute. It's Llama Love, but I'm just going to be using a little bit of it today, so that's not a big deal. We're going to start with the starry background paper, one sheet of that. So let's move the other papers aside for the time being. And let's go ahead and take a look at our instructions. First page of your instructions give you an overview of the cards that we're going to make. They tell you what materials you need and give you a picture of the stamp set and the thin cuts. And I have just gone over the materials that you need today, so that's not a problem. Getting started has some really important hints in here. One thing is to gather everything that you need, and we've done that. Trim all the zip strips. This is the zip strip. It's the piece of paper at the top of the 12 by 12 that coordinates with the paper pack. The flip side of that piece tells you all the colors that would coordinate with this paper pack as well. We're going to check the cut orientation for everything that we cut, and that's right down here below your cutting diagram. You can't tell by looking at the little piece of paper sample right there, but if you look at the one beside it, you can see that there's little icons that definitely have a right side up and not. So let's turn this paper over real quick and see. And the right side up is with the zip strip at the top of the paper, so we'll keep that in mind. Let's see, there are some instructions for doing 2 die cuts at once, which we will get to when we go ahead and do the die cuts. The key here is the little scissors indicate the first cut that you should do on each sheet, and then there's cut lines, fold lines, instructions, and suggestions for the thin cut arrangements. The other thing I like to do before I get started is to remind myself when it's telling you to cut a piece that is like this one, 3 1/4 by 5 inches, the first measurement is the across measurement. So I just go ahead and write those measurements for each piece up at the top of my page. The second measurement is the down measurement. So this will be 3 1/4 by 5. I've put 3 1/4 up here, and the first thing we're going to do when we get started is cut a strip at 3 1/4. Actually, not the first thing. First thing we're going to do is cut off the zip strips. So let's get started with that. There's a zip strip from our first sheet. I'm just going to trade these out because the instructions say to cut off all zip strips. And since there's only 2 sheets of the pattern paper, 2 cuts is all zip strips. One of these zip strips we're going to cut, into 2 3/4 inches. So we need 4 of those. So 2 3/4. Half inch is always the measurement of the width of the zip strip, so that's something that you don't have to measure for. There we go. And those are part number 3C, and 3C indicates that it's project number 3. So these are going into my project number 3 folder. This other piece is a piece of scrap, so that's good. You get to keep that and use it any way that you want. I'm going to flip this over again, just make sure I still have it oriented into the correct direction. And now my instructions, the first width here that I'm going to cut is 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 is right there on my cutter. And then the next strip, or the size of that, is we're going to cut 2 5-inch pieces out of that. So we'll go to 5. There's the first one. And the second one. And these say stack, and that's part of what we're going to do when we do the thin cuts through 2 pieces. And because these still need, if you look at your diagram here, you can see that the thin cuts, the die cuts that have been cut out of them, those are going to come up. So I'm going to put those aside rather than put them into my folders. And then out of the piece that's left, we need 3 1/4, which is 3 3/4, I'm sorry, which is the length, by 1/4, and we're going to cut 4. And I find it easiest to cut anything smaller than 1 inch on the right hand side of my cutting ditch. So there's the first one at 1/4. Just gives me a much more stable platform to hold the paper on. If I'm cutting on the right side, I just have a little bit of a platform left there, and I don't find that very convenient. There's 3, and 1 more piece ought to do it for us, and 4. Now those pieces are marked 4B, and if you notice, there's also an asterisk by the B, which means it's actually the back side of the paper that we're going to use for those. 4 means that it's project number 4, so it's going into my folder number 4. Okay, now the next strip, and we have another little scrap piece left over. The next strip, I'm going to make sure again I still have it oriented right or correctly, is 3 3/4 for the next cut. And while I have this up here, I'm just going to do the third cut, which is also 3 3/4. Sometimes it's just easier to take a peek ahead and do 2 long cuts while they're still together. This is on your cutting diagram, this looks white, which means it is scrap, so I'm going to put that aside. The second cuts are 5 inches each, so we'll go to 5 here. And 5 here. And those again are part of card number 4A, which has the die cuts out of these, so I'm going to put those in my little pile with the other ones. Okay, now I need 2 more 5-inch pieces. There's 1. Here's 2. And those have no more cutting done to them. You might have noticed I just put the extra piece aside, but these are going to be the asterisk side. So these are 2B, and they're going to be the iconic side up. So these go into folder number 2. Okay, now we have our second piece of Starry Night paper. And turn it over, make sure your orientation is correct. Our first cut on this one is 3 inches in. And each of those 3 inches is going to be cut to 5 1/2. Each of those 3 inches. What I want to say is those 3 inches will be cut to 5 1/2. There is no each here. There's one piece of paper that I'm dealing with. Those are 1A, so they go into folder number 1. little piece left over is scrap. Our next cut is 3 inches again. And the same size, these are 2 more 1A pieces, so 5 1/2, 2 times. 1A indicates it goes into folder 1, another scrap piece. And the third strip we're going to cut from this is 3 3/4. 3 3/4 wide. And this larger piece is also scrap, so put that aside and think about what other fun cards you can use that on. This 3 3/4 is cut to 5. If you'll notice on our first sheet, we only cut 2 of the 2B pieces, and these are your next 2 2B pieces. So they also will be asterisk. They're going to use this side. This is scrap, and the 2B goes into folder number 2. Okay, moving along here. Our next sheet of paper is our linen cardstock. You might want to take a real close look at this because linen is a very, very light color. Fold it over and determine which side is your dark side and which side is your light side, because it is a little step lighter on the back than it is the front. So this is my light side, and this is the side that we're going to cut facing up. And our first strip here is 4 1/4. So let's go ahead and cut this to 4 1/4. And that 4 1/4 piece is going to be 3 inches the other direction. And we are going to do 4 of those, which should take care of this entire piece of paper. Or strip of paper, not the whole 12-inch sheet. Sorry. 1, 2. This is 3 and 4. And sometimes the paper's a little off on the size, so I do measure the last piece, even though 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 inches shouldn't have any left over. These also have one of the thin cuts taken out of them, so we are going to put these aside with the other pieces that we're going to thin cut. The next size strip is 3 1/4 inch. And we're cutting 2 pieces out of that at 4 1/4. Another piece at 4 1/4. These are 3A, so they go into project number 3 file. This is not actually a scrap piece. We're going to do some die cutting out of that, so let's put that aside for our die cutting pile. And we want to cut another 3 1/4 inch strip. And the same size as we did before, 4 1/4 2 times. And 3A again goes into project number 3. Again, we're going to be using this for more die cutting, so let's put that aside. Now this last strip we are cutting very narrow to 1/4 inch. And we're going to do that 4 times. There's 1. 2. 3. 1 more coming out. Now this is getting very narrow here and hard to hang on to. So this is another place where I like to use my washi tape. I'm just going to take 2 little pieces and just use the washi tape, pretending it's my fingers holding this little strip in place, and do a last cut. See how easy that is? Don't have to worry about it shifting because washi tape is our friend. Washi tape also removes very easily, so the little piece that got left on there is now removed. This last piece, I bet it's also a 1/4 inch too, but it is a scrap, so let's put that aside. Now these pieces are cut to 5.5, and we will have 8 of them all told. So there's 1, 2, 5.5, 3, 4. So the first 4 are for card number 1B, and the second 4 are going to be for card 1C. So they're both for card 1. So 8 of these for card 1. And you do have little tiny scrap pieces left over. I don't know if you find those worth salvaging or not. Personally, I don't. I can't imagine trying to find those pieces later if I thought I needed them. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more into project number 1. And that's it for our linen cardstock. The next piece is our lagoon. Oh no, I'm sorry, glacier. Silly me, lagoon is much, much darker. So again, make sure that you're cutting, you know which side is your upside and your downside. We always consider the darker side the side up. Our cardstock is colored by its dark side. The colors are named by their dark side, and then the light side is our 1 shade lighter extra bit that gives you more versatility with your paper. First off, we are cutting 4-inch strips out of this. So 3 4-inch strips is the entire piece. Since they're all the same size, I'm going to go ahead and just cut them 1, 2, 3. The reason I don't always just cut all the strips 1, 2, 3 is because I don't want to get confused on which side I'm working with, which size I'm working with after the fact. And as long as they are all the same size, there's no confusion to worry about. Okay, so the first 4-inch strip is cut into 3 inches. So we need 4 3-inch pieces. 1, 2, 3, and number 4. And those are marked 3B, so those go into folder or card pile number 3. The second 4-inch strip is cut to 5 1/4, so we need 2 5 1/4 pieces out of that. There's 1, and there's 2. And the last little piece that looks like scrap but isn't is going to be used for die cuts. So put that aside in your die cutting pile. These are for 2A, so folder or card pile number 2. And 2 more 5 1/4 pieces. Save your scrap and put your 5 1/4 inch pieces into project number 2 pile. The next sheet we need is our Sundance. Look at that, I remember the name. Make sure you've got the dark side up. And our first cut is 1 inch. Actually, there's 2 1-inch cuts. So I am going to do those both at the same time and then stop right there and do the second part of the cutting. So there's 1 inch. As I said, I like to measure the smaller cuts to the right hand side of my trimmer. And these two pieces are cut to 1 by 3 3/4. So we should get 3 of those out of the first piece. This is such a pretty yellow, and you are going to have some left over to play with and add to different cards, which is perfect for summer, right? Little tiny piece left over here for your scrap pile. So one more 3 3/4 piece from the second 1-inch strip, and these are 4C, so these go into our card number 4 pile or number 4 folder. The piece that's left over now, we are going to cut this in half at 1/2 inch. So that we have 2 1/2-inch strips with it. And those 1/2-inch strips we're going to cut to 3 inches. 1, 2, the strip is, last piece of that is into the scrap pile. Here's 3 and 4, a little piece for the scrap pile. These are part of card number 1. They are 1E. So into the 1 card pile or your number 1 card stack. The next cut is 1 1/2 inches. And I'm going to do something a little different than what they are showing us in the instructions. This strip is going to be to make stacks with for our sun die cut, and it shows us cutting it into 8 different pieces, and I don't think that's really necessary, so I'm going to cut mine in half and put them aside for our die cutting. And that's it for our Sundance. See, I forgot it again. Let's take, that last piece I showed you was all scrap. So have fun with that. That's going to be a gorgeous color to add to your projects. Our daisy white, or white daisy, I'm sorry, I always get that backwards. The last piece that we're cutting. So 1 inch is our first cut. I'm lining it up again to the right side of my cutting track. And 2 3/4 is the length that we're cutting these. 2 3/4, 2 3/4. I don't know about you, but sometimes I do that first cut, and then when I'm doing the second cut, I think I might have done the first cut wrong. Don't know why that happens. It's not usually true, it's just this feeling I get. You have a little bit left over that's scrap, so put it in your scrap pile or into your waste recycling. Okay, these are all part of 1, piece number D. So 1 is the card project number. Our next strip is 2 3/4 inches wide. And we're going to cut this down. It's 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I'm sorry about my pause right there. It just didn't look square on my instruction sheets. I thought that can't be right. But that's what it says, 2 3/4. So we need this 4 times. There's 2, 3, 4. And that says 2D. This is scrap, that last piece. 2D, which means project number 2, card number 2, however you're sorting yours. And a 2 7/8 inch strips. Now that's a fun one, right? Again, I'm going to cut these to the right, and I'm going to cut 2 of them, and then do my secondary cuts. And the secondary cuts, these will be 7/8 by 3.5. So 3.5. Three and a half, and a little scrap. One more 3.5. Those are for card number 4, piece number D, letter D. So put them in your folder, Ford card pile, whatever. And this last piece is scrap. And I'll tell you, I do save almost all of my white scraps because when I'm coloring on the white, I've stamped something on white and want to color it, these are great for testing my colors on. And next we have 3 inches. By 12, and it shows this piece as folded and then die cut. So let's just do that. We'll try it the CTMH way. I think what they're trying to do here is give us lots of options on how to do double die cutting. Okay, that's done with cutting, so I'm going to put my trimmer down. I'm going to just use my bone folder to make that crease nice and sharp. This piece that we've just folded in half is going to go into the die cutting pile. Now, I believe the next page has the instructions for starting to put the cards together. So we're going to go back and do our die cutting now. Sometimes I will give you instructions to color in advance, but in this case, all of the advanced coloring is simply sponging and stamping. So we will do that during our assembly video, and that's the 27th at 7 o'clock. And I do want to remind you, if you have not purchased your kit yet, get online and purchase that ASAP because you want to have it in hand when I do the online video. But having said that, if you don't have it on hand during the video, you can do it later because the video will remain up for you to see. Okay, good news, right? Back to page 1 here. All right, back to our very first view. Let's put these aside here. You should have the mountainscape. I'm sorry, that's the cityscape. The mountainscape, the sun, 2 little clouds, and yes, they are exactly the same, but we like to give you 2 so that you can get through your cutting a little faster when they're small like that, and 1 moon. So our first on here is using the 4A piece, which is the stars and the cityscape. So I am going to use a little piece of washi tape to keep my paper together and not let them slip apart from each other, because this is going to be doing 2 at once. Once I have it onto my plate and I have the cityscape die cut in place, now let's take a look back at the instructions again. This does show you where it should be located. So it's 3/4 of an inch down from the top and a 1/2 inch in from the side. I like to eyeball, so I think mine's about right from the sides because they look equidistant to me. But just for the sake of accuracy, I don't normally do this, but I will this time. 3/4 inch down from the top would be right there. Hey, look at that. I almost had it exact. We're going to use another little piece of washi tape try to make it so that your CD is straight across. You don't want your CD sliding off the edge of the earth. And I'm going to put that down with a little piece of washi tape to make sure that it doesn't slide. Now normally we're not doing that because it doesn't matter if they slide, but we are going to be using the background piece here. And so we want it situated precisely in a certain spot. So let's go ahead and run these two sheets together through the machine. And let's see how it did. Look at that. I'm going to very carefully lift this up. The washi tape should release without any problem from your paper, but you always want to be gentle with it just in case it decided to get poopy on you. The pieces we just cut through are part of card number 4. So let's go ahead again. We're going to remove that washi tape that kept those pieces from sliding away from each other. I can feel that the piece on the back is tearing the paper just a little bit, so I'm going to be a little more careful with it. But that is the back of the piece, so let's see if I can do the front without any tears. Perfect. Okay, card number 4, 2 down. I'm going to grab the other 2 pieces. You can do these one at a time if you prefer, but we're just trying to show you here that you can do them even quicker when you're doing them 2 at a time. And I'm not going to measure this time, that's where I think it should go. A little piece of washi to keep it there. And let's run it through the machine. There we go. Also into number 4. Alright, let's take a look back here, find out what we're going to cut next on our linen pieces. We are cutting out the mountainscape right here. And we're also going to do these 2 at a time. It says stack on them. And the difference in the shade on the linen is so slight. So take a close look. The dark side should be up. And this one, it says we are putting it, oh, that's so tiny, 3/8 of an inch from the top. So I'm going to put my tape at the bottom. Whoops. Stay tape. Okay, 3/8 of an inch is just a little bit over a 1/4 inch. And it looks like it's 1/4 inch from each side. So we will call it good right there. Again, we're doing 2 pieces here at one time. And let's run it through the machine. Let's look at our instructions again. On this card, the piece that we cut, the big rectangle, goes into card number 2, and the cutout piece goes into project number 1. If I'm reading that correctly, let's take a quick look at the projects. Yes, that goes, does it? Into project number 1. So put your 2 mountain pieces in project number 1 and the 2 cutout pieces into project number 2. And we're going to do this once more with 2 pieces of linen cardstock. Let's hold them together with a little piece of washi tape. And 1/4 inch from the sides, 3/8 of an inch from the top. We want the mountains let's tape it down and run it through. There we go. Okay, base into card number 2 and the cutouts into card number 1. Okay, out of these pieces we're going to stack them, and we are going to cut 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Sorry folks, I'm listening to the rain outside my window and it's just a tiny bit distracting. Let me get some new washi tape again. This is, okay, one piece to hold the linen papers together so they don't slip apart. And we're doing lots of little clouds. Okay, so what just happened was a little bit crazy because my phone died, and so I've had to wait for a little bit to let it charge up again, and here I am back at it, and I seriously hope that I can figure out how to splice 2 videos together. Okay, so we were in the process of cutting some little clouds, and we had washi taped. I don't know why I'm recounting this, because hopefully these are going to be side by side and you as the audience will have no clue that things went wonky for a second. So anyway, there's my 4 little clouds. Whoops, 4. Where's 4? Oh, there's 2 there. Okay, I'm going to just push those off a little bit. And these are still taped together, which is just perfect. And let's just lay those back down again and do a couple more. I think we'll just do these 2. You get the gist of it. You can keep going with yours, and let me remind you in just a moment how many you need all told. So let's pull off the dies, punch out the clouds. And I'll cut the rest of mine without having you as an audience, I'm sure. You will need to have together 20 little linen colored clouds. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are cutting 2 more clouds out of each of those mountain scenes that we looked at just a moment ago. So let's get those back out. Those are in your folder number 1. And I'm sure that you will keep the cut out clouds as well as having them cut out of these pieces. These are part of card number 1. So let's look at card number 1 and see what's going on here. Here we are with card number 1, and you can see the dark blue behind there. So we are going to put these in those similar positions and cut them out of each of the 4 sky pieces. There we go. The first little one was about like so. And the second one, a little bit higher up here. I'm going to make sure these go under the washi tape because I don't want extra hard pressed down washi tape on there. Okay, so again, we're cutting through 2 layers. Okay, so let's take off our little cloud guys. And there they come off, just like so. 2 more clouds, 4 more clouds to add to our cloud collection. And gently pull off the washi tape from both pieces. There we go. So you have 2 little pieces like that that have clouds already cut out of them, and we will be adding more clouds to them. So do that to your second 2 pieces as well. I'll do mine later. You've seen how to do it, so that's good. Those are going back into number 1. Used to do. And you'll need to follow your instructions here to know where to put all the clouds. So you will have 8 little white clouds from the piece that we just cut in your card 1 packet. In card number 2, you'll have 2, 4, 6, 8. Card number 3, you'll have 4. And card number 4, you'll have 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay? Next, we are going to cut out of our glacier cardstock moons. And the top moons are going to be out of the back side and the bottom moons out of the front side. So let's stick this together. Little washi tape both ends so it does not shift. And we're going to cut moons 4 times out of here. I'm not sure we're going to need to have washi tape holding that moon in place. If he moves, I am sure things will still be just a-okay. So let's do what we did before. We're going to run him through one way, and then I'm just going to back him back out. Pick him up, pop the moons out, and we're going to do it a second time. It's sometimes hard to see which color is the light side and which color is the opposite side. But when you figure that out, the light side go in card number 1, and the dark side goes into card number 4. So 4 moons in card 1 and 4 moons in card 4. And now we are doing the sunshine. And again, on our instructions, it showed us cutting 8 squares by 1.5, 1.5 each. And I just don't think that was necessary. So we're going to just use our 2 squares together. And these suns are cut on the light side. They fooled me this time. Okay. So let's do what we have been doing and tape together our paper just to keep it from shifting. And we're going to put it near the top in this case. There we go. And I do believe that part of the reason that these are, oh, that one did not want to cut all the way through. Nope, it did. I think it's being held by washi tape. Being held prisoner. Part of the reason these are being cut on the light side is because we are going to go back and do a little stamping on them. Watch me. We will move on to the next piece, which is out of white daisy cardstock. And this one we are going to cut the cityscape, and this is the piece that we folded, remember that? So we don't need to use any washi tape to hold it together, but we will. I'm going to put, actually I'm going to use the end that is not got the fold on it, because that fold, I don't know, it might be a little tricky, might add a little too much thickness there. So we're going to run this through and get 2 cuts. Let's gently take off the okay, this one did not want to cooperate so much. So what I'm going to do is I've taken the first piece out, and I'm going to just put that die, that end cut, the die cut, right back where it was before, and that's easy to do because the cut itself has created a crease that will hold it into place. Something else that sometimes, let's see if this makes a difference. When you are going across a straight cut, if it's horizontal across your cutting surface, it doesn't tend to cut as easily because the pressure is on all the same pieces at the same time. So I'm going to give this just a little bit of a twist, give the paper a short turn there, and let's try putting it through that way and see what happens. Oh, that looks good. Look at that, just popped right out. Okay, these little pieces are part of card number 3. So let's put these pieces in card number 3 file. And I'm going to leave you to cut 2 more of your own. Okay guys, that is all I have for you right now. The 27th is the day that we're going to put these cards together. I will come back and show you some of the pre-made cards now that I have them cut. I will do a sample of each card and 2 samples as shaker cards. And be sure to go right to my website, do it now while you're thinking about it, and purchase your kit for the Wander card making workshop. I'll leave a link down below in my class or video description, and you should be able to link right to it from there. I will send you two bits of supplies to make 2 of your cards into shaker cards. So that's a little bonus that you're going to get from me, and I will see you on the 27th. Thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye. Okay, here is an addendum to the cutting instructions that I just provided for you. This is about what to do after all your pieces are cut and how to organize them to be best prepared for our class on the 27th. So here I have all of my card bases folded and put into the envelopes, and here are the 4 folders that I was talking about earlier that have each of the pieces in them. First off, 4 of these card bases will be labeled for each of the card projects that we're doing. So let me start with number 1, and I just put this inside the flap because once the card is in there and sealed, no one will ever see that little number. So I put number 1 on 4 of the envelopes with the card bases in them, and continue on, do 4 number 2s, 4 number 3s, and 4 number 4s. Then I'm going to take folder number 1. Let me put the other 3 aside. I'll just show you what to do with the number 1 folder, and you can continue with 2, 3, and 4 on your own. I'm going to open it up and remove all of the pieces. I might leave some of the smaller pieces in here for now. And we're going to put these pieces into 4 piles. I'm going to come back to those in a moment. Let's start with the largest piece. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And these pieces represent the 4 cards that you're going to make that are all the same, that are project number 1. And so in each of these 4 piles, just start separating out the pieces that you have already cut and organized for this card. Okay. See how easy this is? And let me open this up and get some of the rest of the pieces. Let's go with these long, thin pieces. If I remember correctly, there's 2 of these for each card, but if I go through and put 1 on each pile and then continue in that vein, we will have 2 on each pile when we're done. And the last little pieces here are the moon and clouds. So let's do moons first. 1 for each card base. Or And then let's put the clouds through all of them. If I remember correctly, there were 8 clouds in this particular card, so that should be 2 on each pile. So there you have the pieces all separated out by individual card. We've got 4 cards that we're going to make that are identical, that are the number 1 project. So what you do now is you open your envelope, and I have my card base in there already with the open side up. And if you want, you can take it out or not even put it in the envelope until you get to this point. Put all your little pieces inside there and put the fold side down into the envelope. That way when it comes time to assemble this and you pull it out, all the pieces are going to come out with it. So this is how I do it to be all ready on the 27th. Okay, continue on like that. Just finish putting the last 2 in, then move on to marking your envelopes for card number 2 and sorting out your pieces for card number 2. And on the 27th, you will be ready to go. All right, see you then. Bye-bye.